Story 1. Am I wrong for throwing my husband out after finding nudes from the nanny? I'm 28 female. My daughter is Cassie, 11 months, and my husband is Alex, 35. So basically, it's just what the title says. I had Cassie and then returned to work, psychologist, as I could never be a stay-at-home mother. I'm actually French, but I live in the U.S. So when I returned at the 4-month mark, as I had a difficult birth, we looked around to find a nanny to look after Cassie whilst myself and Alex were at work. We saw a few girls, but then one of Alex's colleagues suggested his daughter, who had dropped out of college. Let's call her Liv, 20 female. Everything went well. Admittedly, I did notice her being quite attached to Cassie, but I brushed it off as a good friendship between the two. She also liked Alex. It was obvious she had a crush on him, always batting her lashes and giggling. I actually found it amusing, and I'm confident in myself. He always laughed it off with me, too. But then on Thursday night, he asked me to do something on his phone whilst he bathed Cassie, and I saw some pictures flash up from Liz. When I looked at them, they were obviously spicy nudes. She was wearing skimpy lingerie and in provocative poses. I looked back at the history, and she had been sending these for a while. As far as I can see, Alex has never responded, but obviously text can be deleted. When I asked him, he got defensive and told me to stop using my psychiatrist tricks on him. I was not happy with his non-answers, and it ended up in a shouting match waking Cassie. So I got him a bag and threw him out. Told him he's not welcome back until I have answers. I'm considering taking Cassie back home to see my family in France for a little bit. His mother and friends have been blowing up my phone saying I'm being too harsh and they were harmless texts. Nevertheless, I feel disrespected, and that doesn't fly with me. Was I too harsh? Should I accept his claims that he never responded? Edit. Not husband, fiancé. Also, I'm not taking Cassie to France. We will visit my family for a few weeks, and Alex has given consent. I think you're both kind of wrong in this respect. I think you're being a little too harsh with this, but why is he not giving answers? If he said he never responded to it, couldn't you just check on the phone? I mean, as long as you were on there. If he had never responded to them, did he just ignore them? Did he never pick them up? Was this the first time you had opened up these photos? He might just be innocent in this. And he kind of feels like you're disrespecting his privacy. I think there needs to be a little bit more open communication about this, and it really needs the two of you to work together, considering you two have a child together. This is not going to go anywhere anytime soon. Story 2. What's on your screen right now? I received an unsolicited call earlier this morning from a gentleman named Dan. Dan worked for Microsoft Security and was calling to let me know that my computer had been downloading malicious software. And because I was such a loyal customer, he would be walking me through the steps to remove the software and fix my computer. In case you didn't guess, Dan did not work for Microsoft, my computer was not infected, and he was not going to help me. Our conversation began. Dan, are you near your computer right now? Me. Yes? Why? Dan, I'd like to help you check it for issues. Me. Okay, give me a minute. At this point, I spend a couple of minutes finding my laptop and getting it booted up. Really, it only took about 20 seconds, but Dan didn't need to know this. Once I was at my laptop, Dan continued. Dan, what do you see on your screen right now? Me. What was that? I wanted to make sure I heard his question correctly. Me. Dan. What do you see on your screen right now? Me. Well, I see my desktop. At this point, Dan tried to continue with his script, but I had not told Dan everything that was on my screen, so I continued. Me. There's a clock in the bottom left corner. The time says 10:30 a.m. The date is December 3rd, 2017. There's a Wi-Fi signal with full bars. There's a volume meter, but I have it muted right now. There's a battery indicator showing my laptop is 27% charged. Dan tries in vain to interrupt me, but there was still more things to tell him. Me. There's an icon called My Computer, an icon called Recycle Bin, and icon called Google Chrome. You can see where this is going. I proceeded to read off to Dan each and every icon, shortcut, folder, and file that was currently displayed on my screen. Dan never got a chance to get a word in edgewise. Finally, after about 4 or 5 minutes of meticulously letting Dan know exactly what was on my screen, he asked me a question. Dan, can you right-click on my computer? Me. Sure. No problem. Do you know where that would be located? Dan. It should be on your desktop. Me. I know, but I can't find it. Do you remember what it was next to when I described everything to you? Dan. It should be next to the recycle bin. Me. No, Google Chrome is next to the recycle bin. After a few more minutes, Dan successfully navigated me into the Start menu to open up a Run box. Dan. Okay, there should be a field in the Run box. Is it empty? Me. No, it has something written already. Dan. What does it say? Me. The first one says MS Info 32. The second one says Command. The third one says REG Edit. After going through all the items in my Runbox history, 11 to 12, Dan let me know that he would need to call me back in a few minutes. Despite my pleas for help, Dan hung up. Apparently, I wasn't supposed to follow his directions so well. Yep, apparently there are a lot of YouTube channels, I've seen a few of them, that are fighting back with this kind of time-wasting kind of stuff. And you didn't even have to have all that much of a literate computer knowledge to be able to waste this person's time. So, yeah, great job, and glad you had the time to be able to pull this kind of stuff. Story 3. Sister, 19 female, woke up during a colonoscopy. Sister tried to bring up her upsettedness. The doctor told her he didn't have a pill to cure being a dramatic young woman. Basically what the title says. My mother took my sister to the doctor to drive her after. Sister goes in for a colonoscopy. She wakes up during the procedure. She admits she was kicking up a fuss. She was too sedated to actually verbalize her pain, so she basically just screamed and cried. She could hear the doctor telling the nurses, "This sometimes happens during the procedure. It's just the body's response. I know it's upsetting, but she's not awake and can't feel anything." When it's over and my sister is back in her room, my sister told my mom what happened. She was still crying and extremely upset. It was painful, but also terrifying to not be understood by the doctors. The doctor came in to tell them how it went and immediately launched into this speech about, "Yeah, sorry, she's crying, as women do this. It's called being a teenage girl. We see it all the time." My mom says, she's saying she was awake during the procedure. The doctor had this look of shock on his face. He kind of rambles on for a while and then jumps to this thing about, well, her blood pressure was getting too low, so we couldn't give her any more sedation. My mom says, all right, but she's in a lot of pain here. Is there something we can do about that? The doctor literally said, if I could give you a pill to cure you being a young woman, I would. But I can't, so she's all yours, Mom, and he left. The nurse was horrified and said, you should not be seeing this doctor again. The nurse apologizes a bunch and gave the family a referral to a new doctor. We're going to file a complaint with our state regarding his comments about not having a pill to cure being a young woman. Is there anything else we should be doing? Lawyer up. Find a lawyer. I'm sure this would be something someone in the medical malpractice field would be very interested in. If you can afford it, great. If you can find some resources to help you afford it, great. And if it prevents this doctor from practicing with such a bad rapport with patients, then great. That's awful.
Please like and subscribe if you made it this far. I hope you'll enjoy the rest of the video and have a wonderful day.
Story 4. My 9-year-old's petty revenge. Today, I got a call from the school my 9-year-old attends asking to please come up to the school because my daughter was in trouble for vandalizing another child's property. This surprised me because my daughter is a bit of a goody two-shoes and never gets in trouble. So I dropped what I was doing and swung by the school to find my daughter sitting in the principal's office, grinning ear to ear. I was ushered in to take a seat. The principal immediately launched into a tirade about how my daughter had deliberately broken another girl's necklace and how unacceptable it was. Once he was finished, I turned to my daughter to hear her side of the story. Last year, my daughter saved up her pocket money to buy best friend necklaces for her and this girl. I ordered them from Wish.com for her. This year, the friendship went belly up when I discovered this girl was trying to extort her friends, including my daughter, into buying her expensive items on a kids' game with threats, backstabbing my daughter, and threatening anyone who dared play with her at lunch, so she was completely isolated. My daughter cut off contact and has been rebuilding her friendship circle, and all was going well until this little girl started repeatedly demanding that my daughter give her the other half of the friendship necklace so she could give it to someone else. The fact that we were the ones that bought the necklace to begin with was apparently a minor, irrelevant detail. My 18-year-old niece and nephew are very protective of their young cousins and were quite upset for her. So they decided to offer her the opportunity for therapeutic destruction. Last weekend, they got out their tools and helped my daughter shatter the charm into 7 or 8 pieces with a hammer, some pliers, and had a great time. My daughter put the pieces of the charm in her jewelry box as a reminder of what fake friends can do to you. Anyway, apparently, this girl kept demanding the necklace every day, harassing her, so my daughter hatched a plan. She gathered up the pieces into a little bag, took them to school today to empty the bag in front of the girl, and told her she was welcome to the necklace as long as she likes jigsaw puzzles, but she'll probably need some glue. Apparently, the girl went red and stormed off to the teacher to say that my daughter had destroyed her necklace and my daughter was sent to the office. I couldn't keep a straight face and burst out laughing. You could see the vein in the principal's forehead pop out as he looked at me laughing. I pulled out my phone, showed him my purchase history to confirm that we bought the necklace, and my daughter is perfectly within her rights to destroy her own property if she so wishes. He finally dismissed us, and my daughter skipped back to class, laughing hysterically. My niece and nephew are quite proud and planning to take my daughter out for ice cream this weekend to celebrate her standing up for herself. Absolutely amazing. Great way to deal with it. Some therapeutic destruction. Nobody got hurt. And it just seems like this extortionist girl her parents seem to hold some sway on the school board or something. They didn't even ask this girl for her story. And I'm glad that it all worked out well and you had the receipts to prove whose it was. Story 5. Am I the a-hole for leaving my sister's wedding early because she kept my husband out of pictures? My 31 male, sister Ann, 34 female, got married on Saturday. My husband of 7 years, Mark, 32 male, was there with me, and up until one point, it was an amazing evening. After the ceremony, Ann wanted a picture with all of our siblings, there's 5 of us, and their respective partners, so we started lining up. When Anne saw that my husband was standing next to me, she shook her head and said something about him ruining the aesthetic. Apparently, her plan was to put one man and one woman next to each other alternately. My youngest sister, 18 female, who doesn't have a partner and was standing on the very side, offered to stand between the two of us, so we could be close and Anne's wish would still be respected. I thought that was a great solution, but Anne disagreed and told Mark to get out of the picture. He's quite introverted and tries to avoid confrontation under all circumstances, so he simply complied and told me not to get angry. But it was obvious that he was hurt and disappointed by being left out. Obviously, it didn't stop me from getting angry, and I walked away with him. I can understand that Anne wants her wedding pictures to look exactly how she imagined them, but I think the idea my younger sister proposed was very reasonable. I congratulated Anne and her husband one last time, but then I said my goodbyes. When I was asked why we were leaving early, especially before taking the pictures, I said that I didn't feel like our presence was wanted. We left before dinner was served, and I took Mark out to his favorite restaurant to cheer him up a little. Anne has texted me since saying that I was being overdramatic and making a fuss over nothing. Our parents have tried to remain neutral, but except for my youngest sister, the rest of the family supports Anne and thinks that leaving early was going too far and that I should have sucked it up instead of ruining her big day. How are you ruining her big day? I mean, if you were shouting, if it turned into a screaming match, then it might have been ruining it. But you just very politely said congratulations, and you went to leave. It's her that's not respecting you. I mean, it was a great solution, and really, I think we all know what she's implying here. I don't think she approves of a homosexual relationship, a relationship that has been going on for 7 years as husband and husband. Let's address that. It seems like nobody else in the family wants to address that. Story 6. Employer reamed me over. I reamed him back with help from the FBI. It was the early 1990s, and I worked for a telemarketing company with the initials SMC in Logan, Utah. I was employed for 2 full days when I came to the conclusion that we were just scamming old people out of their money using grossly unethical methods. I quit after my second day of work, and when I received my paycheck, I noticed that I was paid minimum wage instead of the $10 per hour I was promised when they hired me, so I went back to complain. The office manager told me, "You didn't finish the 90-day probationary period, so you only get minimum wage." Hogwash. They never said anything about a probationary period in training, and I know it wasn't in the contract I signed upon hire. Yeah, I actually read it before signing it. As the office manager opened the door to have me leave, he said, "See ya, wouldn't want to be ya." Oh, I was fuming. I called the city offices and discovered that SMC didn't have a business license and reported them. Less than an hour later, I watched as the police showed up and told them they would have to shut down operations until they had a business license. It took them 2 weeks. When they were back in business, I used an elaborate scheme to get myself on their call list and recorded several of their employees' efforts to sell me their junk. It was Utah and legal to record the calls. I knew what they were doing wasn't just unethical, it was illegal. Not only did I report it to a local news station who had their consumer reporter, Debbie Dujanovic, do a 2-part story on the scummy company, but I also reported them to the FBI. The owner of the company was one of the 200-plus people that was arrested by the FBI in a nationwide sting of dishonest telemarketing companies. The FBI called it Operation Disconnect. See ya, wouldn't want to be ya. Ha! Yeah. Definitely should have just paid him what they promised him. It cost you so much more. And you should have taken that into account because you've just created a person who doesn't like you and has a lot of time on their hands. Story 7. How to say no to a wedding performance without being the bad guy? Me, 26 female, and my husband, Jay, 28 male, are getting married November 30th. Jay has 2 sisters, Mary, 25 female, and Regina, 35 female. Both sisters have a husband and a daughter. Mary approached us 4 months ago and asked if her daughter Katie, 5, could perform a song for us. Katie is a very sweet girl, and me and Jay adore her. Mary said Katie had gone to her music teacher and asked to help her sing so she could sing at our wedding, but Mary wanted our permission first. Jay and I said yes and are very excited to hear her perform. Apparently, Regina caught wind of this and basically told us that her daughter Emma, 10, is also performing a stand-up comedy act. Now, Emma is a very nice girl, too, but can sometimes be a lot. She has no filter and will do whatever she wants. Regina kind of enables this behavior. She was diagnosed with ADHD, which is okay, I have it too, but her and her mom use it as an excuse for her poor behavior. For example, the other day I had told Emma to stop climbing on the furniture while we're all watching TV. Emma screamed in my face, "I have had it! You can't tell me what to do!" I looked at Regina and she just shrugged. Jay and I were very wary when Regina told us this and asked what this comedy show entailed. She basically told us that it was a surprise and that we would love it. This was Monday. Last night, Jay got a text from Mary. She had sent him a video that Regina had sent to her saying, "Little preview of the act." The video was of Emma practicing her routine, saying very inappropriate stuff that shouldn't be said at a wedding, let alone by your 10-year-old niece. The video ended as she was saying, "Congrats, Ellen Mouse." Backstory. Jay and I have known each other since kindergarten. We've been friends our entire lives before heading off to college. Growing up, I was always on the bigger side. Jay, however, was a late bloomer. Senior year, he was only 5 feet and like 100 pounds. I had been 5'5" since 8th grade and a lot more than 100 pounds. When I went with him to his family's house as an official couple for dinner, Regina said, "Wow, I can't believe the elephant and the mouse finally got together." She laughed and explained that Jay came home from school one day and told his family that he was going to marry me one day. She saw me at an event a few days later and thought it was funny that a little mouse like her brother would like an elephant or a girl like me. Her parents, along with her siblings, told her to knock it off, and that was the last time she ever said something like that. Hearing Emma say that in the video made Jay and I freeze. We had a feeling that a lot of the comedy act was actually Regina feeding Emma these jokes to pull something at our wedding. Jay and I are still really upset and don't know what to do. On one hand, we don't want this comedy act going on at our wedding. On the other hand, we don't want to be seen as the bad guys for not letting a 10-year-old do something while letting our other niece perform. Jay and I ended up texting Regina, letting her know we do not want Emma to perform the skit. Since last night, we have gotten non-stop text from Regina saying that we're ruining her daughter's life and being mean by letting another child perform, but not letting hers. I don't know what to do. I just don't want her to stir up drama and make us the bad guys at her own wedding. It's your wedding! Regina seems to be using this as an opportunity to surreptitiously roast you through her daughter. You've got the evidence. If you got sent a copy of the video, you got the receipts. And if anyone else has anything to say, it's not their wedding, it's your wedding. And if the parents or the siblings have anything to say, you've got the receipts. Show it. Show what they want to do and ask them, would you want that at your wedding? I think not.
Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.